The rain had already turned the dirt road into a ribbon of mud by the time Clay Walker spotted her near the broken fence line. At first he thought she was a stray calf, hunched and trembling beneath the storm. Then she lifted her head, and he saw blood on her brow, fear in her eyes, and bare feet sinking into the cold earth. "Please," she whispered when he stepped closer. Her voice was so thin it barely survived the rain. "Don't look at me." Clay froze. He was a rancher, born and raised on hard land that didn't forgive weakness. He'd pulled calves in blizzards, buried his parents with his own hands, and lived 10 years alone without complaint. But nothing had prepared him for the sight of a woman standing broken in front of his gate like she'd been dropped from the sky and forgotten by God. She wrapped her arms around herself, bruises dark against pale skin, her dress torn and soaked. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Shame clung to her heavier than the rain. "I'm not here to hurt you," Clay said quietly. He took off his coat and held it out, not moving closer. "You're on my land. That means you're safe." Her knees buckled. Clay crossed the distance in 2 strides and caught her before she hit the ground. She flinched, expecting pain. It never came. "I won't look," he said as he wrapped her in his coat. "But I will help." Inside the ranch house, warmth returned color to her lips as she sat by the fire, clutching a mug with shaking hands. Clay cleaned the cut on her forehead with hands, steady from years of work but gentle as prayer. "My name's Clay," he said. "You don't have to tell me yours." She swallowed. "Elena." That was all. She slept on the couch that night while Clay sat in a chair nearby, shotgun across his knees, listening to the wind howl like it wanted to steal her back. Outside, headlights passed once on the distant road. Clay turned off the lights and waited. Whatever she was running from, it wasn't done with her. As dawn broke, Ellen awoke crying from a nightmare she couldn't remember but felt in her bones. Clay handed her coffee and looked away, honoring her words from the night before. But something had already changed. For the first time in years, Clay Walker knew his ranch was no longer just land. It was a refuge, and he would defend it. Before the sun set again, the past would come knocking. If you feel the strength of this story, stay with us. Subscribe to the channel, because some promises are only just. The men arrived in black trucks just after noon. Clay saw the dust first, then the way Elena stiffened at the window like prey sensing a shadow. She whispered the words before he asked. "They found me." Clay didn't raise his voice, didn't ask questions. He only nodded, placed his hand over hers, and for the first time looked directly at her face. "You don't have to hide anymore," he said. "Not here." The truck stopped at the gate. 3 men stepped out, expensive boots sinking into ranch mud they didn't understand. One smiled like he owned everything he saw. "We're looking for a woman," the man called. "She belongs to us." Clay stepped forward, calm as stone. "No one belongs to anyone on my land." The man laughed. "You don't know who you're dealing with." Clay knelt down then, not in surrender, not in fear, but to pick up a handful of dirt. He let it fall through his fingers. "I know this land," he said quietly, "and I know what I'll do to protect it." The confrontation was brief. Sheriff sirens wailed in the distance. Elena's bruises had already been photographed. Names had already been given. Power dissolved quickly when light was forced upon it. When the trucks finally drove away, Elena collapsed into Clay's arms, sobbing with a sound that carried years of pain breaking loose. "I'm ruined," she whispered. "I didn't want you to see me like this." Clay lifted her chin gently, finally meeting her eyes fully. "I see a survivor," he said, "and I swear to you, you will never kneel in shame again." She hesitated, then knelt instead, not from fear, but to thank him. Clay stopped her instantly. "No," he said, dropping to one knee before her. Her breath caught. "This ranch," he continued, voice steady but thick with meaning, "has been empty a long time. If you want to stay, you don't owe me anything. Not your past, not your body, not your silence." He placed his hand over his heart. "But if you'll let me, I'll stand with you." Every step forward. Tears fell freely now, not from pain but relief. Elena nodded. That evening, they watched the sun sink behind the fields. For the first time, she walked barefoot on grass without fear. For the first time, Clay wasn't alone. Some wounds don't disappear, but some lives are rebuilt, one promise at a time. If this story moved you, don't walk away. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful human stories of courage, healing, and love. The nights after the trucks left were the hardest. Elena slept, but not deeply. Her body rested while her mind stayed awake. listening for engines that never came, footsteps that existed only in memory. Every creak of the ranch house made her flinch. Every distant sound pulled her back to places she had sworn she would survive but never revisit. Clay noticed everything. He noticed how she paused before entering a room, how she always chose the chair closest to an exit, how her hands shook when someone unexpected appeared on television. He never asked her to explain. Instead, he adjusted the world around her. Doors stayed unlocked. Lights stayed on. His presence stayed steady. One evening, as the sky burned orange over the fields, Elena stood barefoot on the porch, staring at the horizon like she was measuring the distance between who she had been and who she might become. "I don't know how to live normally," she said suddenly. Clay leaned against the railing beside her. "Normal's overrated." She smiled faintly, then shook her head. "I mean it. I don't know how to be untouched by what happened." Clay was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, not as a protector, not as a rescuer, but as a man who had buried grief so deep it had shaped his bones. "You don't erase scars," he said. "You teach them where they belong." Elena turned toward him. "And where is that?" "Behind you," Clay replied. "Not as chains, as proof." The next morning, Clay handed her a pair of old ranch boots. Worn, solid, trusted. "They won't run," he said. "But they'll carry you." She slipped them on, laughing softly at how big they were. It was the first real laugh she'd made since the night he found her in the rain. Days passed. Elena learned the rhythms of the ranch. Feeding horses at dawn, fixing fence wire under wide skies, cooking meals that filled the house with warmth instead of silence. With every task, she reclaimed something small but vital. Her strength returned slowly, unevenly but truly. One afternoon, a storm rolled in fast. Thunder cracked close, violent and sudden. Elena froze in the open field, breath locking in her chest. Clay reached her just as panic took over. "Look at me," he said firmly, grounding her with his voice. She shook her head. I can't. Clay knelt in front of her, right there in the dirt, rain soaking through his shirt. "I'm not asking you to be brave," he said. "I'm asking you to be here with me." Her eyes met his, and something inside her shifted. The storm passed. The sky cleared. Elena realized she was still standing. That night, she sat by the fire and spoke for the first time about the life she had lost. Not every detail, just enough to let the truth breathe. Clay listened without interruption, without judgment, without trying to fix what could only be honored. When she finished, she whispered, "Why didn't you ever turn away?" Clay stared into the flames. "Because once," he said quietly, "someone needed me, and I wasn't there. I won't make that mistake again." Silence settled between them, not empty but full. Later, as Elena prepared for bed, she paused at the doorway. "I don't whisper, don't look at me anymore," she said. Clay met her eyes. "Good," he replied, "because I see you." Outside, the ranch stood calm beneath the stars. No headlights, no fear. Just land, sky, and two people learning that healing doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives when someone stays,